The Honourable Martha Karua, Senior Counsel, NARC Kenya Party Leader and a member of the Azimio National Leadership. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. It's like Happy New Year, after August 9th.
The year.
Yes.
I doubt it would be happy if it was the beginning of the
year. Right.
Yeah.
Talk about starting on a high note.
Kabisa. How are you?
I'm good. Yes.
It's good to see you smiling. Good to see you well.
Smiling? Mm-hmm. Was I not expected to smile?
No, it's always good to see you smiling.
Our proverb for today tells us precisely that.
Say the proverb for her.
What is written on the brow will inevitably be seen by the eye.
Oh, yeah.
What is written on your brow is being seen by my eye.
Okay. But I'm happy to be here and to see you also.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
You've just caught us as we started the conversation, which is just right off the bat. The Director of Public Prosecutions has been saying things. And in fact, on Sunday, he gave an interview to KTN, where it was a tell-all interview. He was talking about the frustration that he's experienced and he has undergone in the execution of his duty. He sort of like gave two phases of his tenure as DPP so far. Phase number one is when they just got into office, him and DCI, George Kinoti, came in at the same time. They were working very well together as, they had this kind of bro code. You start investigations, I start looking at the kind of file that you bring to me. If we get to a certain point where I see, yes, we can take a case to court, I take a case to court, I tell you, give me more investigation as we are in court. And that was the agreement that they had. And then later he realized that the DCI, according to him, is not doing what he had promised he would do. And cases are getting to court, they're getting stuck because he cannot proceed without the evidence that is required. The evidence is not coming from the DCI. And now the DPP is saying, that's why I'm going to court and applying to withdraw many of these cases. Of course, with that, the reaction in the public is, hold on a minute. So what's been happening in this, and where does the buck stop? Who should answer what questions? Let me ask you that question, because you are an experienced jurist.
The buck certainly stops with the DCI. Not with the DCI, with the ODPP, with the DPP.
Yes.
I came refreshing myself on the Constitution. Remember, his is an office with security of tenure for the 9 years that the 9-year period is there. He doesn't act under the direction of any other person. He's independent. He can direct the DCI, not the other way. It is therefore not right that my good friend, the DPP, would try to wash his hands off the DCI. He is the lawyer. The DCI is trained to discern certain things in law. But even if we were just to take the two of them professionally, who should be guiding the other here in matters of law? It is the guy trained in law, and that is the DPP. It is not right. What is happening is not right. And that interview, from where I sat, I watched it later on a clip. It was a political campaign. He sounded like a politician trying to pass the buck. If he had an unwritten code, that unwritten code is subject to what the Constitution and the law says. So he should receive the file. He has no business taking anybody to court before he is satisfied there is enough evidence. And once he takes it to court, the matter is off his hands. Unless in the clearest of cases, even withdrawal in suspicious circumstances tends only to erode the confidence of the public in his office, in himself as a person, and in the criminal justice system. What a coincidence that the case is now being reassessed and withdrawn are for the politically correct. Withdrawals just before parliamentary vetting. People are nominated for cabinet. Questions arise, as they should in the public, that these are people who may not be fit according to Chapter 6 of the Constitution. Withdrawals come to remove those hurdles or to lessen them in some cases. If indeed the tenure of the DCI was as bad as the DPP makes it, then it should be a withdrawal of all cases initiated under Kenoti's tenure. It should be withdrawal of that chicken thief, of that petty offender who fill our prisons, because our prisons are filled with petty offenders. Those ones now should be home as we talk. Those we are held without bail.
As we release everybody.
We release everybody, and that's basically what my principal, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga said. When he was mentioning Waluke was an example. He was saying no double standards, because I've seen fully what he said. Release then everybody, not selectively. So
Why
this is terrible.
Mheshimiwa, because you're saying that, well, there's a coincidence.
Yeah.
Coincidence of president announces to the country, I am nominating these individuals to join my cabinet.
Yeah.
And of course, those people have questions. Those people have cases in court. Before the vetting begins, we are seeing the withdrawal of these cases. We are seeing the dropping of the cases.
Yeah.
The accusers themselves are coming to say, I no longer have a case to pursue.
Yeah.
Where is the coincidence, though? I mean, if somebody has decided, you know what, I'm the one who had made a complaint against this individual, and I said that he had sexually molested me, and now I want to withdraw the case. How do you link the DPP to that?
I think you link how he's linking himself. We haven't linked him because he then, as on cue, goes ahead and does other things that when you lump together with what is happening, it becomes one big, it's like it's part of the whole. So nobody has linked him. He has linked himself by his actions.
So you're saying he's waded into the political waters.
Yes.
He's playing politics.
He's waded into. Because let's first take, I listened to a party said that he mentioned the case of Aisha Jumwa and even the case of Gachagua, and he applied the threshold test. And he says that threshold test is when you see it's a case you can get a conviction if everything is put in order. If they had passed the threshold test, meaning there was a prima facie case, the DCI, Kinoti, is no longer in office. There's a new man. Why are you withdrawing? Why don't you seek an adjournment for a short time and let the new DCI bring you what you were lacking? Because already you had seen there's a prima facie case. I'm just using the DPP's language. They had achieved the threshold test.
Yeah.
If they had not and he went to court, then he is confessing to us that he's incompetent. You see? If he prosecuted because they were friends with Kinoti, again, it reveals incompetence, because he is supposed to go not because of friendship, but because legally he has a case.
And the oath of office that he saw.
The oath of office, it's a very heavy responsibility to be Director of Public Prosecutions. And I must say previously, I admired the way he handled the office immediately he came in. You can even see my tweets. I've even personally told him he's doing well. But towards the end, there were issues, but not as many. But now, out of his own confessions, I tweeted and I said, any public officer, and especially a senior officer, who gives the excuse, I was told, I was made to do this. And now I'm not only referring to the DPP, it's including the investigators. They actually disclose moral infirmity, lack of integrity to hold that office. They should either resign, be fired, or, sanctioned.
Let's contextualize this, Honorable Karua.
Yeah.
Okay? So the Constitution, like you're saying, the Constitution establishes the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and gives the holder of that office proper safeguards in terms of independence from manipulation and undue influence from any quarter. and also in terms of security of tenure and guidelines on the parameters within which he should operate. This is making sure that you're looking at public interest, making sure that there is fair administration of justice, making sure that the people whom you deal with actually feel that you are advancing and championing the rule of law and cause for justice. Now, reality though, you get into that office, you are not operating in a vacuum. You're operating in a space that has criminals, has political leadership, has politics. And the reality of politics is that those with political power, even though they will not be able to come to you directly and expressly because the Constitution blocks them, they'll find ways of getting to you. And I hear that is what Nuruddin Haji is saying. At some point, I felt intimidated and threatened. My home is attacked. My person is attacked. I am dragged to court. And one case today is, do you have powers to investigate and to prosecute? The other case tomorrow is, did you actually forge some membership attendance of a certain meeting where you claim to have come up with these regulations on how to determine how you're taking people to court? This sounds to me like it was a political fight that is coming to him. And as a human being, I mean, Martha, you've been in that space. As a human being, you at some point will buckle, won't you?
If you buckle, quit. If you feel that the environment is completely hostile and you cannot proceed, quit. You came from some place. Who says you must be in office? If you feel you cannot proceed as demanded by the Constitution, either because you've been hounded, or as a human being, you feel now we all have limits. You feel the pressure is too much. Please go home. Do not do anything contrary to your oath of office. Go home. And I don't know why people fear leaving office. There's a place you came from. You weren't born in that office. Even homes are left. You can leave home as well, But do not do something that will hurt either an individual or the public whom you serve, because all prosecutions are instituted in the name of the Republic. The Republic is the people. Our Constitution, it is the people. If you feel, for instance, a high-profile case is offending that person, that high-profile person, think also of the people of Kenya. If it's a murder case, there's a family mourning a loved one.
Yeah.
If you mishandle that case, justice is two things. It's the real thing doing justice and the appearances, If you appear to be doing something to benefit one side, you have destroyed people's faith in the justice system. So if an official of government is accused of defrauding the people, defrauding counties, think of the Republic, think of the people of Kenya. Do it in a way that gives them confidence you know what you're doing. And any case, as the DPP admitted that had reached the threshold test, and it's a high-profile case, therefore drawing a lot of public interest, why not let it go to the conclusion? There is a reason we have public trials, and the Constitution says the trial must be public, because we want the verdict, the legal verdict, and we also want to give the court of public opinion a chance to give its own verdict. There are cases that are verdicts that are so outrageous that they draw public condemnation. And I would remember an old time one case in Mombasa where the judge had actually to quit because it drew so much public acrimony. When
is it the Sandstrom case?
Sandstrom case.
Yes.
Yeah. So let the court of public opinion, because the public opinion is not going to the ODPP to read the file. If it had a prima facie case, please let it proceed. Let us see, let the public have the evidence. And the way the DPP came out in that interview is that, like, he has a mandate to only get convictions. His mandate is not to get convictions or acquittals, is to have justice done. And sometimes, even with the best of evidence, our justice system is not perfect. The person on the other side, the presiding judge or magistrate, may have a different view from the investigator. So we bounce it off from the investigator to the prosecutor to the judge. And then the judge gives a verdict.
A verdict of it.
Because it's a public trial, the court of public opinion will also give a verdict. Now, the public, who are the larger stakeholders, because they own this republic. It's not owned by politicians. We own collectively the republic. The greatest stakeholder has been let down in this process of withdrawals.
Still pursuing just a little bit on the matter of the politics and the context of it. Looks and sounds like Nuruddin Haji saw, and he says he took the matter with the higher-ups, and this is, he says, with the higher-ups at the national level. Some action was taken, and then it fell back into the same frustrating thing. Maybe he looked and saw August 9th is coming. We are definitely going to have a new administration. He was looking at it. It's either going to be William Ruto or Raila Odinga. So if it's William Ruto, I'm going to take my case to him and say, you know what, I need more support, and this is what I'm going to do. If it's Raila Odinga, Martha Karua is going to be the one who's in charge of, justice and the criminal justice system. He was going to come to your office and tell you the things that he has faced. What would you have told him?
What
if he
I'm
came
saying
and
here.
told you today, look, the person who is in the office of the DCI has completely let me down. I have cases in court. I don't have solid evidence to continue the prosecution. What should I do?
One, let me say this. It's wrong for any administration to have two officers at that level who are at complete loggerheads. Because what it means is the public who suffer. So the moment the disagreement between the DCI and DPP reached a higher threshold, it ought to have been resolved. By the authorities, because the office you can resolve is the DCI, not the DPP, because that is constitutional, unless if he was going out,
In which case you can institute proceedings to get him out of office.
If there is any reason.
Okay.
And you resolve it not just by throwing people out, it's also by bringing them together. I cannot pretend to know what happened. I was not a member of government. But I was a member of government when the DCI once again completely disagreed with the commissioner of police at that time. But it was not a public spat like this one between Haji and Kinoti. So we never got to know. So during the 2007 clashes, the two men were not talking. And therefore, communicating and acting in public interest was difficult. And that tells you why some of the things went south. I was a member of government. I came to know about it later. I would have been able to advise my boss then that you can't have the two. You will have to decide on one. See?
Yeah.
You cannot have an IG, a DCI who do not agree. Similarly, because of prosecutions, even Kinoti had people go to court to stop him from being able to prosecute, to stop the police from prosecuting. So Haji is crying, but I'm sure Kinoti has a story too. So the authorities, which included William Ruto as the deputy president, ought to have resolved that. What we have is not a new administration. It's new in the sense that the top is now occupied by the former deputy. Therefore, it's not an entirely new administration where people can completely wash hands. We paid you salary as deputy president. You're part of this mess. Do something about it, but do remember that everything you do, it's in the name of the people of Kenya, not in the name of your friends. So let this be resolved in a manner that takes care of the main stakeholder in this republic, which is the people of Kenya, represented there by the complainants.
Mheshimiwa, naysayers and people who subscribe to conspiracy theory would say that there are those in the political space who thrive in this very same thing we're saying, where people who are charged with a very serious mandate are at loggerheads. That confusion is allowed to continue because it serves their purpose.
Indeed. And that confusion, the buck stops at the presidency. And the presidency, by dint of our constitution, is 2 people. That's where the buck stops. And even in the presidency or in the governor's office, where you have a deputy, if you stay up to the end, you have no right. You lose the ground to be able to point fingers. Because if it became untenable, you had the options. You didn't take them. So you are part of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then move into extrajudicial killings then.
Yeah.
So extrajudicial killings is another subject that's coming out in our criminal justice system as well. The president has disbanded, has ordered the disbandment of a unit in the DCI.
Yeah.
The issues have come and he has now said, I'd like IPOA to sit and see how we can resolve issues of extrajudicial killings, still pointing into that office on Kiambu Road. Where again does the buck stop?
Again, the buck stops, especially on extrajudicial killings, on the presidency, the executive. Because once your people keep complaining, and it happened during our time as well, once the people keep complaining, it is up to you to rise up. You remember in the Kibaki presidency, Professor Ashton's report.
Yep.
Which the current CS for Foreign Affairs has dismissed as government spokesperson.
Then
I came out as the minister saying what Professor Ashton said is what the people who elected us have complained of. You dismiss him, you are dismissing the people who have given you a job. We were aware, and internally we had already discussed it. But you see this habit of the government always denying. And I said, it's under investigation. It's pretty much what we are setting out to do. When there is extrajudicial killing, why there is the executive arm of government is the first among equals. And within it, the president is the first among equals. Because the executive drives the government. Even though they are independent branches, the executive drives the government. If there is extrajudicial killings, then the administration has to take responsibility.
Okay.
I am glad that investigations are coming up. You remember so many people have been killed, including lawyer Willie Kimani, the Yala bodies, all that. We need thorough investigations. I'm happy the way they are going on about the 2 Indian nationals, but go about it about everyone, not just the people who were known to the president. Go on about Yebei, go on about the witnesses of ICC who disappeared, the Yala bodies, go about the clerics from Mombasa who have been found in rivers in Embu. Go about the whole thing and let us clean our system. So I support a cleanup that is holistic, that doesn't appear to be targeted.
In what form should this take? A public inquiry?
Yeah, so that everybody who has lost a person can come and it can be checked. But I do not so much believe in inquiries. Like my body, the Law Society, is calling for an inquiry into the DCI. That is diversionary. You know?
Why?
Why do you say that?
It is, how do you inquire about the DCI and the withdrawals have only been for the politically correct? If you really want an inquiry about the DCI, then first open the jails and let everybody get out. And remember their convictions that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has gotten from cases investigated by the DCI. What are you telling us about it? What are you telling us about the court that ordered forfeiture of Gachagua's money because he could not explain how he had gotten it? I believe you, DPP, when you say that the Gachagua case had the threshold test. That's how come the judge forfeited the money. So how come you are considering withdrawing? You are not asking the new DCI to investigate? These are the contradictions. And when you offer a regime that is already showing signs of messing up the criminal justice system, the option of an inquiry, you offer them the softer option.
So it's
where we can be treated to theatrics, it will take 2-3 months, then it will be discussed, then it will go to the shelf. We have so many inquiries which are in the shelf. I don't believe in
You would have been Deputy President, Honorable Martha Karua.
Yeah.
As you were campaigning to be Deputy President,
the
Yala bodies were showing up.
Yeah.
As you're campaigning to be Deputy President, all these other cases of enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings were live.
Yeah.
And you were prepared to be the person who is championing rule of law and justice.
And human rights.
And human rights.
Yes.
What was your plan? What could you have done? If you were the Deputy President today, what was it? What could you have been seeing?
Rule of law. And you will remember even Kibaki's government, when it came in, things changed completely. There was adherence to the rule of law, and the Constitution, the 2010 Constitution had not been enacted. People watch what? Not what you are saying, what you're doing.
So what
in
could
the
you have
Kibaki
done?
government, things went south much later. But we started with everything changing. And the changes that are brought, it's not about focusing on individuals. It's giving clear instructions on the direction the government is taking. And from there on, anybody who makes a mistake is dealt with. And if cases are uncovered of things you did, you also are made to take responsibility. When you begin, cleanup is not focusing on individuals, because then you give a sense of a witch hunt. It's continuing with the work, not focusing on the individuals.
So how different would it have been if Martha Karua was the Deputy President in charge of the rule of law in the country? How different would it have been for those Indians would have still have been disappeared? The bodies in Yala, what would you have done by now? 51 days in office.
I think we want to focus on those who are there. I am not in that office, but if I was in that office, one, there would be no selective withdrawals of cases, because justice is about being done and being seen to be done. That's why I said appearances. We have to be very, very careful what we do. So proper investigations, and you ask the investigators to set up a desk specifically dealing with that, because those issues are too much. You also make sure that if disappearances are pointing to a certain office, that office is not part of the investigations. You can even have investigators who are not part of the police. It's been done before. So there are many things you can do. But one of the things Martha Karua would not have done is have selective withdrawals. Although that's the role of the DPP, I would not encourage selective withdrawals. And even when we were campaigning and those issues come up, go back to my Twitter timeline and you will see that right from even the ICC times when witnesses were disappearing, my voice has been constant. I have never lost agency on issues of human rights, rule of law, whether in or out of government. And you will see that even when I was a Minister of Justice and people were brutalized, prisoners were brutalized in committee during the Kibaki government, you will see my voice. I have never lost agency on the issues that matter.
There's a matter that, as we're talking about this, has, elicited some other kind of public shock, and you have even mentioned it. Your captain, Raila Odinga, speaking about this issue, spoke about the John Waluke case. He gave this as an example. Was it the most appropriate example that he should have given? I'm asking that because even today's editorial in the Standard says, unless ruled otherwise, Waluke belongs in jail. I mean, Waluke has been tried, gone through the trial, been found guilty by a competent law, been sentenced by a competent law. Even if we were saying, let's release everybody, is that the most appropriate example that really Raila Odinga could have picked?
Waluke is still having one more appeal, remaining. And I have seen in the papers he's appealing. And he has surrendered himself when called upon. He's in jail. I think it is not right for the Standard or for any media to try and take things out of context. The example may be seen as inappropriate, but because I looked at the entire statement in a different publication, he was talking about the double standards being played by the DPP. And those are the double standards I've been talking about. So he is saying, if we no longer believe in the criminal justice system, if we no longer believe that criminals should be behind bars, then release everybody. So he gave the example of Waluke.
Release all criminals.
I'm giving the example of the chicken thief, of those small people who fill our jails, petty offenders who fill our jails. Open them and review their cases. Do not review the cases of only the politically correct. So that is in a sense what my principal was saying, and I understood him. And I know he's a man who believes in the rule of law. Discrimination, which is double standards, is forbidden by the Constitution. That's the point he was driving home.
But then also, just like you said, there's an issue of appearances.
Yeah.
And, justice is not just done, but appears to be done.
Yeah.
In this case, and we're talking about now Chapter 6 of the Constitution, one of your member parties in Azimio, Jubilee, nominated the man. He's been elected by the people, fine. Azimio has also nominated him and fronted him to be a member of the Parliamentary Service Commission, even with the kind of status that he is in today.
I am glad you are talking about this.
To be done?
There are so many members of Parliament with criminal cases. Once you land in Parliament, the standing orders say you have to be a member of the committee, a committee. So whatever committee they give,
they are given. Service Commission.
Let me tell you, whatever committee you give, whether it's catering, is a committee of Parliament. The fact that the Electoral and Boundaries Commission sanitized all these people, in spite of Chapter 6 being there, and it is not just them. Look at the Deputy President. So why are you speaking on Waluke? Let us say this. We have failed in enforcing the Constitution. We have failed. Even the courts have failed. If it was so, even the Jubilee administrations came in when they were accused of crimes against humanity. Never mind that the cases later fell. So in this country, both the public and the institution, we have allowed that situation. So picking on Waluke so as to weigh in on what my principal said, those are double standards. Let us tackle everything together. Let us see where the rain started beating us, and let us do what is right.
Mheshimiwa, do I hear you to be saying that there's a certain precedent that has been set in this country?
Which I don't agree with.
Yes. Now, what I want to ask is it that position that you have very eloquently put across, is that the reason why, or among the reasons why, you actually walked out, you left government?
I left government, because my work became untenable. I felt I was not getting the required support. And the office of a Minister of Justice is a coordinating office. You are not a doer, in the sense that you are not the one who will prosecute, you're not the one who will investigate, you're not the one who will decide. You bring the policy framework, you bring the parties together, and you agree to move as per policy and per law. I felt that I was not getting sufficient backing from my superiors. Because if it is cabinet, you should not get people to cabinet who do not pass the integrity test. Because then you are starting with a problem and hoping things will go right. I am not the appointing authority. My boss will be the appointing authority. There are many things, I'm giving that as an example. So there were many things not going right in government. We had several scandals, the maize, the Triton, and obviously we had those disagreements in cabinet. And I saw that although the policy-wise we seemed to be together, action-wise we were on different grounds. And because it is the president's government, you give him way. Giving way is saying bye,
It's your baby. Carry the baby.
Because you see, if you stay in, how will I say that I cannot later criticize? And not that's what I'm telling.
President Ruto.
The former deputy president. That's what I'm telling him, that you were part of this administration. You can't completely wash your hands. That's what I'm telling Haji, the DPP. You cannot wash your hands and leave it to Kinoti. You see? And you are talking only of the cases you have selectively withdrawn. You are not counting the cases you have prosecuted and won, investigated by the same
individual.
And may I repeat here that the work of the prosecutor is not to always get a conviction. Is to take a case which you weigh and see can be won in good faith, and you prosecute it. And the court's case is not always to work, is not always to convict, is to make a judgment on the evidence, which can be an acquittal or a conviction, well reasoned, which resonates with everybody, with the masses.
But you know, Mheshimiwa, you fall into the category of individuals. Well, your party leader falls in that category. People who've actually walked out of senior positions in the government.
Yeah.
So it means you form that unique group of people who are the exception rather than the rule. So, essentially, if you work on principle, one, you start off as a minority. This one is a personal question I'm asking. Why do you feel that you must stick to your guns? And because your position really hasn't changed much. Not much, hasn't changed. The things you said when you were last year, the same things you're saying. And you have actions that you've taken that actually support the things that you're saying. And as I said, you are in the minority. Why do you stick with this position?
I stick with it because that is what the inner voice tells me. That is what the law says. And the laws of Kenya represent the larger public. Remember, the constitution, we made it together. And the laws are made under that constitution. And those made earlier, anything that conflicts is null and void. So I'm being true not just to myself, but to the covenant we as the people of Kenya gave to ourselves. You see?
This is the constitution.
Yes, because when you are given a position in public, it's not for you. It's not for your clan. It is for a clan called Kenya. The larger clan. Because we all come to those sub-clans, but our larger clan is Kenya.
So it's about the rule of law.
Yeah.
It's about fidelity to the constitution.
And also fairness, because if we stick to our rules, then even if it's against me, I'll be able to feel it's fair. Or this I can take. You see? And institutions are as good and as strong as the people occupying them.
Right.
So, my younger brother, DPP Haji, take courage and face your office. If you feel you are not up to it, do the right thing.
Which is?
But you cannot remain there when you are independent and complain.
What's the right thing?
It is like judges complaining, the Constitution. And the Constitution gives you leeway to do what is right. You see? And then you complain. Why our institutions are different from those of developed countries is because of the caliber of the people sitting in them. Political parties will tell you that we need an amendment to bring in two-thirds gender rule, and it is them who don't want. The IEBC will tell you, until the appeal is over. Yet, there are some clear indicators. It is the infirmity of the people holding office that is holding us down. I'm looking at the US, seeing what transpired during their last elections, seeing former President Trump now being tried, the process going on, and I do not know whether he will be convicted. But the system is able to self-cleanse.
And to follow the rule of law.
And to follow the rule of law.
If we do not do that in this country, it will be the end of the republic as we know it. In fact, the Kenya Kwanza were talking about state capture. And state capture, in simple terms, is repurposing or retooling the state to serve a group instead of the larger, whether cartels or otherwise. What I'm seeing happening now, the criminal justice system, the state is being repurposed to serve a clique. We should be careful as Kenyans. We should raise our voices, because if we all keep quiet in order to be politically correct, in order not to be attacked, and anybody who talks is attacked, where does a new government, a fresh government, find time to attack when there is so much work undone? When the cost of living is still high. I saw an image of cows dying en masse.
Yes.
In pastoral areas, when you see cows dying en masse, you can be sure there are people who have succumbed to hunger. Yeah. There are people who have already perished. Where do you get time to throw mud at people when there is so much work to
be done? I want to throw in a question before we conclude the conversation, Mheshimiwa. I noticed that you have carefully referred to His Excellency William Ruto, CGH, as former deputy president.
Yeah.
Not as president.
Yeah.
Why?
The law recognizes him, I don't. I still hold the position.
What does that mean? The law recognizes him and I don't.
I have a choice.
To obey the law or not?
He is the president courtesy of the law. I do not have to overpraise that position. I differed. I said I respect what the court verdict, but totally disagree with it. I still stand here to say that the results were doctored. Okay? And that's a personal position. You cannot stop my brain from working. You cannot force me to believe. So I'm talking about my belief. And
where does your obligation to follow the law, like you just said,
yeah,
the Constitution, the institutions that are established therein, where does your obligation come in?
My belief is not subject to the law. What I believe in is not subject to the law.
What is it subject to?
But it is subject to my conscience. But giving way to the law is obeying the law, isn't it?
Okay.
So the court spoke, we gave way, but we are still searching for the truth. And I am searching for the truth.
What's your next step?
So I still have to keep on saying, I do not believe he won. That's all.
So what you're saying in essence, Mheshimiwa, is that the court of law, the courts of law, the highest court of law, is not the place you go to look for the truth.
No, you in court you look for justice. And the justice given in court may not represent the truth. So you cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
Martha Karua, thank you very much. It's good to see you again. It's good to have you on the show again.
Well,
Martha.
nice to be here. Yeah, it sort of feels like home in a way.
It is home.
Yes.
It is home.
Yeah.
The Honorable Martha Karua, of course, we know her senior counsel, NARC Kenya party leader, one of the leaders in Azimio La Umoja One Kenya coalition. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Asante sana.
Speak to the people, 30 seconds.
Just to say that there is need for us to preserve our constitution. Let us not accept the move to cower people, to bend towards one formation. Unity in diversity. And especially this message is to those elected in the county assemblies and in parliament.
Okay.
Na maana Azimio tukae ngangari.